Ashley, what's going on? How can I help?
Basically, I have a 12-year-old son that has ADHD and Asperger's syndrome. And right now he has a fixation on horror videos, subjects, and pornography. And his counselor that we've been seeing for a couple of months, he doesn't seem to feel like it's a big deal. But we really do.
He's 12?
He's 12.
Oh, my gosh. Well, stop seeing that counselor today. Jeez Louise, what a moron. Why would he say that's not a big deal?
I don't know. He's addressed it with them, but he always just kind of, well, I think you're above that. That shouldn't be something you would be interested in, but
he's 12. Every 12-year-old on the planet is interested in naked people. That's why they have got parents that get between them and viewing naked people. Why? Because they're children. God almighty. Any counselor that says, they shouldn't, but it's cool. Dude, should not be a therapist, especially a child therapist. Unbelievable, man. Just the scientific research about how these poor kids are blowing the hedonic sensors out of the back of their heads with, I'm getting fired up, and this is not at you, Ashley. You are beautiful and lovely and wonderful, and I'm glad that you called. Can't believe my own ears that a therapist would do this. If a 12-year-old is coming to see me, this is a red alert moment, because the research on these kids who start looking at pornography at young ages are unable to have erections at 23, 24. They are unable to hold relationships. They are melting their sexual partners because of their misguided understanding of what sex is. They're getting sex education from pornography. And this is a stop the presses moment for me. This is pull all the internet out of my house if I have to, turn every screen off in my house if I have to. I'm not going to put that garbage in my kid's head. I'm not going to let them have access to it in any way, shape, form, or fashion ever. I don't care if they have Asperger's or ADD or anything like that, right? And the same's going to go with horror movies, quite frankly, when it comes to, what kind of horror are you talking about?
It's anywhere from like Friday the 13th all the way through. He's got fixations on serial killers and
Ashley, where is he getting this stuff?
He's hearing about it. He hears about it from his friends. Mm-hmm. And the worst part is, now that he's back in school, they all have Chromebooks. Mm-hmm. And he gets on, and we'll look at his history, and he'll do maybe 5 or 10 minutes of classwork, and then he's on YouTube, and he's just searching and just all day.
Listen, you are in the school principal's office tomorrow at 8 a.m. You take the day off of work if you got to, because those are supposed to have filters on them. He's a child. They're supposed to have filters on them. They're supposed to not be able to just surf the web. They're supposed to have a lot of breaks in those Chromebooks, right? And I was intentional about asking those questions with my kid. You get in there that morning and enough. 12-year-olds shouldn't be watching rated R movies in school. They shouldn't be watching them at all, for God's sakes, man. Yeah, right. And again, this has nothing to do with diagnostics. Kids are into things that get their heart rate racing, right? That's their kids. And this is not about his diagnostics. This is about the fact that he's 12, right? He's a 12-year-old boy who wants to check out naked people. He's a 12-year-old boy that wants to check out cool, exciting, ooh and ah, violent, crazy things, right? And that's a parent's job. That's a school's job. That's a counselor's job. That's a teacher's job to protect these kids, Ashley. So I would be all up in there. And if not, I'm going to throw that computer in there, and then we're going to do this thing the old school way, because I'm not going to have my kid in that poison, in that trash. No chance, no way, no how. We can't help the conversations that our kids are having with their classmates. I actually those don't bother me. They give me a great avenue into my son's heart and my daughter's heart. And so I like hearing about words that they've learned and conversations. And some of them are hard and uncomfortable, but that gives me a great avenue to have conversations with my kid, right? So, and they're going to have that for the rest of their life. They're going to hear stuff at college. They're going to hear stuff at the workplace. They're going to hear stuff at some local bar having a beer with their buddies. They're going to hear those things. So that doesn't bother me, because those are other 12-year-olds. What bothers me is there's no adults stepping up in this kid's life, man, that are saying, not on my watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
You're at a burn the ships moment, Ashley, for the heart and mind of your son. Okay.
Okay. Right.
And I hate.
I just wanted. I want
that,
to make sure it wasn't just us. I didn't feel like we were overreacting, but when the the professional tells us that
nonsense.
we are
nonsense. You tell that moron to call me on my own show. I'd love to talk to him. I would love to, right? Or take this YouTube clip and whenever it comes out, and then email it to him and say, I want to discuss this at the next session. Except hopefully by the time this comes out, you're not having any more sessions. Jeez Louise. And by the way, is this the same guy that diagnosed your child as ADD/Asperger's?
No, that was a psychiatrist several years ago.
Okay.
We switched to this guy because we kept having that reoccurring problem with him searching for things, and the group suggested that we meet with him because he may be more open to talking to a male instead of a female counselor. That's
fair. Kids will talk to different people with different levels of comfort. That's awesome. But when you're working with a child, you have to remember that when your kid is seeing a child counselor, psychologist, whatever, you, the parent, are the actual client there. You get to talk through what the treatment's going to look like. Not that you get to decide what the outcome's going to be, but you get to come into those and say, my kid is already developing a pathology, an addiction towards pornography. We've got to stop this, and I need some help. And if a therapist is going to say, well, I don't really do that. I do guided directive therapy with 12-year-olds, and say, you're an idiot, and then go find somebody else that's going to help you solve this immediate crisis of a problem with your 12-year-old, okay? Now, here's the other thing. If your child truly is on the autism spectrum, right? And again, I want you to go have somebody else check this. Anytime somebody just throws Asperger's and ADD, that's actually, the language isn't even what they use anymore. They've got different language for that diagnostic. And so I'd recommend getting that tested and see. But man, if you start developing some of these long-term patterns, some of these long-term loops with somebody on the autism spectrum disorder, it is unfathomable how hard it will be to unwind some of that. A kid with ADHD tendencies who's coming from a chaotic situation, who maybe doesn't fit in a traditional classroom, and so we're just going to label him. That's a whole other conversation. But that kid is going to suffer from this addictive, this looping, this routine-driven, this chaos-pushing. Man, he's going to be searching. So we've got to get extra intentional now about having alternative behaviors, alternative things. And for a 12-year-old, that means complete restriction, not learning to live with, hey, listen, Ashley, your mom gut was right. Your mom heart was right. Okay?
Okay.
Listen,
yeah.
Follow your gut, follow your heart. You know that boy better than anybody. Okay?
Right. Thank you.
All right. So listen, you didn't screw anything up. You listened to the professionals. You did what they told you to. And I'm super glad that you called. It's time to get in. It's time to it's time to turn into advocate mama. It's time to go be war mama now. And again, you're in that school office at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Show the history and say, this is not going to happen. And it's not up to the 12-year-old to not go to these sites because they're 12, right? Good grief, you're going to drive me crazy.